return now with Dr. Tim McKnight, and we've noticed it's finally warming up, so that means summer's close. We hope.
Gotta like this weather, yeah.
Yeah, but with that comes some visitors from the woods and the
From
grasses
from the unknown.
Yeah,
You never know where they're going to be or where they're going to bite you.
Yeah, what is likely to bite us, and is that a problem?
Well, it can be. It accounts for 1 million visits to the emergency room a year. So, whether it's bee stings or a lot of different insect bites, mothers are treating their children and not sure what to do, and you get worried about all these viruses, Zika and West Nile and all these other things. So it's definitely something that I think we need to be aware of. So there's lots of different insects that can bite us. People don't realize that there is a family of scorpions in southern Ohio. Most of the scorpions are in the southwest.
Right.
But scorpions are probably the most dangerous bite because if not always, but at times they can, when they bite, they can affect your neuromuscular system and cause breathing problems and muscle spasms and other things. So
that's a bite, not a sting?
It's a sting.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
a sting. But the most important thing on all these bites, if it's more than just a local reaction, a local swelling with pain, if there's anything that happens, whether it's sweating, nausea, vomiting, headaches, muscle spasms, anything, most people are going to know, okay, I need to go to the emergency room. And that's the bottom line. If it's just a local skin reaction, then you need to know what to do. But I also want to talk about how to prevent these bites and to be aware of them. So scorpion bites, number one, southern Ohio, it's a southern unstriped scorpion that can bite people or sting people in southern Ohio. And those can be painful and cause other problems. Those need to be seen in the emergency room. Then we have two types of spider bites. We have the black widow spider, or that family, and those can be in Ohio. And those tend to also be non-life-threatening, although people freak out. They think they're going to die. And again, same thing. If it's a local skin reaction, you wash it, use ice, and you can use antihistamines, whether topical or oral, like Benadryl or Zyrtec, and sometimes even a hydrocortisone cream, like hydrocortisone over the counter.
Yeah.
But if they're more advanced, then oral steroids can be used. So that applies for almost all these stinging bites, including the whole family of bees and wasps and jello jackets. So black widow spiders. The other one that we really get confused on, and we probably overtreat, are the brown recluse spider bites. People see a big brown spider and think they got bit by it and they need antibiotics, and that's not normally the case. Most of the time, a brown recluse spider bite will cause pain and swelling, but when it starts to cause skin necrosis, in other words, the skin starts to kind of get dark and kind of, I don't want to say dissolve, but it starts to break down. Those do require a treatment, a prescription treatment.
And those are dangerous, right?
They can be dangerous, yes. It's the secondary infection that can cause the problem. That's what I mean. People really get worried about those because of probably a lot of false information. And so we don't want to overtreat, but we need people to be aware.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about in a minute where we find these different insects and how to prevent them from, reduce the risk of being bitten by them. So those are the two types of spiders that can cause probably the most harm. And then you've got the whole family of stinging bugs. And we have things like or insects like bed bugs, which is a completely different topic. But they will bite you on the back or the warm parts of your body that are covered up when you go to bed. So those can be really tough to diagnose because they're hard to see. And then we have let's see, we talked about brown recluse spiders. We have flea bites. Those are also difficult for people to see, but it's the same type of treatment, with the topical or oral antihistamines and oral or topical steroids. Horseflies and deer flies, actually, these flies will bite you pretty deep and they can cause you to bleed. They can be painful, but again, it's the same type of treatment as the other bites. Obviously, mosquito bites are really common. And everybody knows what that looks like, and they are carriers of some of these other viruses. So a mosquito bite doesn't mean you've got West Nile or a Zika virus, but if you have symptoms that follow these mosquito bites, you should follow up with your provider. So that's the bottom line. And we have sandflies, and we've talked about tick bites. So I wanted to move into the stinging bites, because those are the ones that probably most people are going to be facing this summer. So one is fire ants. Fire ants are found underground in mounds, and we've probably all seen them. They're kind of a fiery red, small little ant, and they can really sting and really hurt. And you see those often in gardens. So if you're working in a flower bed or a garden, you really ought to use gloves, because they can sneak up your arm pretty quick. And again, for all these, you want to try to prevent them. So in the summertime, if you have light clothing, you wear long sleeves. That would be good if you're out in those areas where you think the bugs might be, or the stinging insects might be. Then we have the honeybee, which they're social, and they live in obviously live in hives, and that's 10% of people will have a pretty bad reaction to those anaphylactic reactions, and it only takes 2 or 3 stings by one of those, by the bees, to cause that reaction in certain vulnerable people. So those are the people that need the EpiPens, and they need to be aware of. But often you don't know until something like that's happened. So we have to really be careful this time of the year. Somebody that's maybe a child, or somebody that hasn't been stung by one of these bees, you don't know until it happens. So if your child gets stung and they're starting to have difficulty breathing, or they look different than just the local red reaction where they're bitten, you don't want to delay. Get them to the emergency room. Let somebody take a look and reassure you, because it can be fatal, and we don't want to take any chances with these things. And you think. I remember as a kid, we had bees along the hedgerow by the driveway, and for some reason, I was able to catch them with my hands, and I don't know what I was thinking or doing, but I thought it was pretty neat I could catch them, but I was never stung. But I have been stung by a bee before. I know what it feels like. So don't do dumb things like I did as a kid, because you might have something really tragic happen to you. We get confused with some of the other bees, like the yellow jackets. Yellow jackets tend to be near. They tend to be near people, and you find them, or the best way to avoid them is to avoid floral printed shirts and floral scents, because they're attracted to that. So, and we have to be careful when we're trying to remove those nests. I'd get a professional to get rid of those, because you're a lot more vulnerable to get stung. But their venom is pretty powerful, and it doesn't take too many stings from a hornet or a nest of hornets to really cause some serious problems. So you have to be really, really careful with that. And then we have yellow jackets. Now, yellow jackets are found typically underground and near shrubbery and trees, and you also find them in open areas where there's open food sources. So like a picnic area or around garbage cans. So when you see those, just assume those are yellow jackets, and they can be really aggressive. They can attack you in multiple waves. So you have to be careful, avoid their nests, and sometimes their stingers, when they get in your skin, they don't come out very easily. So you have to watch that. And then the last one is the wasp. The wasp. The wasp. So I would always get confused. I'd call a wasp a hornet, and hornet a wasp. The wasps are the ones that tend to be the black ones, the dark ones. Mm-hmm. Okay, and you find those under houses and eaves and in barns and around mailboxes. You can see their little mud nests that they make up in those shaded areas.
Usually you can, except when you get stung in the head when you're a kid.
Yeah, and for some reason...
I didn't try to catch it, but it caught me.
In the fall and in the early spring, we have some wasp nests under the eaves that we haven't been able to locate, because they get in underneath. But they'll come in through the house, and they'll be by the doors and the windows, and they're usually look like they're on their last leg, so they're not aggressive, look like they're dying. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how they get in, but they find their way in. I'm not sure why they want to come in, but they're not much of a threat when they're in that state. But those can also be a problem. So the best treatment for all of these bites is, is ice, anti-inflammatories, Motrin, ibuprofen, antihistamines, whether it's topical or oral, and then steroids, topical or oral, and the oral ones have to be prescribed. So when do you seek help? When you have nausea, vomiting, when you have shortness of breath, dizziness, chest tightness, or tongue swelling. That's when you just don't delay the care. So these are, and the other thing that there's lots of different ways to remove these stingers, but the best way, now this is according to the American Academy of Family Practice, the best way to do this is to take a credit card and press it against the edge of your skin, and then kind of, as you're putting pressure on your skin, you turn it almost parallel to the skin, and you just slide it or rub it over the top of the stinger. You're trying to kind of push that out, pull that out. They don't recommend using tweezers or squeezing it out because it can inject more venom from the stinger. So that's the recommendation from the American Academy.
Keep the pressure off the stinger.
Yes,
So, in other words.
you're trying to do that. So, and then the other thing that the American Academy of Family Practice says is, other ways to first know where these insects are, picnic areas and trash cans and around the houses. The spiders, you see the black widow spiders in dark, cool places inside. So you'll see them in a basement or in a box, in the shaded places. And the brown recluse spiders you also will find in sheds and around wood piles and places like that. You have to be careful. I have an old set of tennis shoes that I'll put on before I cut the grass, and often I'm barefoot when I slip them on. And I pick those up, and I always look, and I turn them upside down and kind of tap them against the wall to make sure there's nothing in there. Those are the kind of ways you can get yourself burned by just not being careful, not paying attention. Same with garden gloves. You don't just put those on, make sure there's nothing in there. So you have to use common sense. But to prevent a lot of these bites, we should, again, cover the skin when we can, expose skin. And there's clothes that you can buy that are impregnated with permethrin, which is sort of it's a repellent against these insects and these stingers. And then there's another one called DEET, D-E-E-T, which has 20 to 50% concentrations. And they're the ones that are most widely studied and the most recommended as an insect repellent. So we have some things we can do. We need to be cautious in the places we find ourselves. Be careful in the basement when you're getting into a box that's been in a dark room. You don't just assume there's nothing in there. There could be, but it's not like the black widow spiders. We're going to see many of those here, but you might go to visit somebody in Arizona and just not be thinking about it. We don't think about those things here, but in those places they see them more often. They're probably more careful. So I guess that's the advice I have. And again, if you get the best treatment is to wash it off, make sure the stinger's gone, and then to use whatever topical agent you can find. There's all kinds of things for bee stings.
Oh, yeah.
Baking soda and meat tenderizer. I don't know. That's like, I don't know what the science is behind that. But some people think it works. But this is from the American Academy of Family Practice.
Do you have any? This is just for me. Any mosquito repellent that you think works best? Because I am a mosquito magnet. Yeah. I would probably ask the pharmacist, because I don't really have one that I would say I know works the best, but the pharmacists are a good resource. Ask them what they like. They have access to all this information online, and they can look this up and find out, some of them might be more harmful. And again, I was going to talk about some of the alternative treatments that maybe some of these are believed to be less toxic to the skin, but that is so far out of mainstream medicine. Unfortunately, I don't always like the direction mainstream medicine goes, but I wasn't really prepared to talk about that with confidence, so I didn't bring those other alternative treatments up. That might be a person to person, though.
Yeah, it can be. Yeah, and some people just attract the mosquitoes more or flies more. Yeah, I'm not sure what that is, but
trying to see what I smell like. So
it would be nice if you took a shower once a week, though.
Maybe that's the key. All right. Well, Dr. Midnight, thank you, and we'll come back next week with more summer stuff.
Summer fun.
Summer fun.